going to have to stop you there, Abdul, because it's time for Ramadan around the world, and we are coming from the United States of America, Phoenix, Arizona. And I'd like to welcome Sister Ulya Khan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Okay, Ulya, we're gonna need you to unmute, please. If you can unmute for us.
Yep, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. No, Jazakallah so much for that.
And thank you for having me. My pleasure to join today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Ulya, so talk to us about how is Ramadan in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, so we actually have been in the United States about 23 years, and we split our time between Phoenix, Arizona, and New York. It's interesting, before moving to Phoenix, I had not even realized that it's the 5th largest city in the US, and it's home to about 200,000 Muslims, about 35 mosques all over Phoenix metropolitan area. And the Ramadan is interesting because the mosque activity increases to a level not seen in other months, not even for Jummah prayers. People actually, just jump up and down to want to contribute to daily iftars here. And there are families that actually go to the mosque every single day and for iftar, and then they observe Maghrib and then Isha prayers with Tarawih. So it's a mixed bag. What we have also in Phoenix, Arizona, sort of with our kids, we find that most of our lives were spent as Muslims living abroad. And we realized very early on that when you have children who you are trying to bring up as good Muslims, it really is a case of not do as I say, but do as I do, because children are smart. So alhamdulillah, all our children observe Ramadan and fast, and they actually look forward to Ramadan because of the iftari itself, the concept of iftari, and the concept that you sit together as a family unit, or if you are going to people's houses, you sit together with the extended community, and then even more extended community when you go to the mosque and Islamic centers here.
Ulya, there has to be a diverse culture of Muslims that are there, either from Africa, the Southeast Asia, the subcontinent, Arabia. Talk to us about how the camaraderie or the unity comes together during this Ramadan.
So what we find in Phoenix, that there is a high number of Arabs here, Arab population, and they're all the brothers and sisters. They come together, they organize different functions for each other, they share their meals with each other, and they actually make an effort for their families to get involved as well, because what happens a lot of the times, the men are involved in the Islamic centers and the mosques, and not always so much the women and the children. And during the month of Ramadan especially, I find that all these diverse communities make much more of an effort to connect with each other. It doesn't matter, where in the world you are coming from. As long as you're a Muslim, you're a brother and sister. So it's really a very heartwarming feeling, and really quite a thing to observe when you are here in Phoenix, just seeing how people from these diverse walks of life, united by one religion, behave towards each other.
Well, yeah, I know we are 9 hours ahead of you right now. I think it's 16 minutes past 9 in Arizona. Talk to us about how the day goes during Ramadan in the United States, because you are entering what we would call the spring period.
Yes, so the thing that people have to realize about Arizona is that 6 months of the year are beautiful. So from October to March, it's amazing, beautiful, ideal weather. From April to September, it's very, very hot. It goes all the way up to 125 degrees. And it's, Ramadan can be challenging, especially without any water, because it's dry heat. So what happens is you actually don't realize that you are losing moisture from your body because you don't sweat. So, that's one thing that we learned very quickly when we moved to Phoenix, was that if anybody offers you water outside of Ramadan, always accept it, because your body will need it due to the dry heat phenomena. So Ramadan becomes, in the summers, especially summer months, it becomes especially tough primarily because of that, the dry heat and not being able to drink water. We actually have observed unfortunate incidents where people just faint because their, the balance is not right in their body of the salts and liquids, etc. So one has to be very careful in observing Seheri in the morning, drinking lots of water, both in the morning and the evening. And, I would say unless you are a laborer who has to work in the heat, that's to be avoided during the daytime and just stay inside and do ibadah or stay in an office building and do work.
One final question, Ulya. You were around during, of course, September 11th when Islamophobia was at its highest. Has the perception changed towards Muslims maybe over the last few years in the United States?
That's an excellent question, and thank you for asking that. I would say that there is, for a change, Muslims are also making a definite sort of effort to try and change the perceptions, because as you know, perceptions don't just change by themselves, and media plays a big role in all that. So there are many foundations, Muslim foundations and charitable organizations in particular, that are making really big strides in changing the perception in the United States. And one, actually one proof point is that for the first time in 118-year history of America, we actually saw Ramadan prayers, Maghrib and Isha prayers and Taraweeh prayers being held in Times Square, New York. That's quite something. That was a big news item all over, plastered all over TV screens across the United States, because it doesn't happen. They don't block off Times Square for anything. So for them to block it for 1,500 brothers and sisters to come together for iftar, do Maghrib together, and then Isha prayers and Taraweeh was a big deal. So I would say definitely the perception is changing. The other thing that I would say is that when we were moving to Phoenix in particular, Arizona is known as the redneck state. So we were a little bit scared, and especially with President Trump, ex-President Trump, the sentiments, the divide was so high in the country in general that we were a little bit unsure of how the community here would react to us. But I'll tell you, thank goodness, we never felt that we were being treated differently because we were Muslims or because we had a different color skin. So sometimes the media shares things which scare you, but in practice, if you keep an open mind, you find out that if you are good to people, they in turn are good to you.
Ulya Khan, we'd like to say Jazakallah so much for joining us here on Ahlan Ramadan on Hilaal TV, and all the best for the rest of Ramadan, especially in the weather conditions that you will face in Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you very much, and happy Ramadan to everybody.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's Ulya Khan coming to us from Phoenix, Arizona.